This man is a genius.
So was Vagabond one of your friends, not hers?
Well, like I said, actually, if now that you're starting to bring his name into it, and he got killed, now I don't think I have any other questions to answer for you. Now I think having a lawyer here might be a good idea.
In 2014, a man by the name of Robert Huggins was kicked out of a club named the Gypsy Jokers Club after stealing money from the club members for his drug addiction. Robert was mad, and several months later he decided to break into the house of a leader of the Gypsy Jokers Club named Mark Denclaw. After breaking into his house, he tied up Mark's girlfriend and stole his weapons and money. When Mark found out what happened, he called his men to tell them what Robert did, and then they decided to look for Robert to punish him. On June 30th of 2015, the club members found Robert staying at a house in Portland, Oregon. When the club members saw Robert, they kidnapped him and took him to a shed in Washington. On July 1st, the men punished Robert for hours and they ultimately took his life. Later that day, the police found his body in the field, but they couldn't find the people who took his life. Several months later, the police found out that Robert was an ex-member of the Gypsy Jokers Club, so they decided to interrogate the leader of the club, Mark Denclaw.
If you cannot afford a lawyer, the court will appoint one before any questioning. I have read each of the above rights and understand them. Is that correct, sir?
Yep.
All right. If I can have you sign right there, please.
For the people that don't know what's going on, Mark basically signed a paper stating that he doesn't want a lawyer to talk to the police, which means that he will be talking to them.
Thank you, sir. It's okay if I call you Mark?
Sure.
All right.
Jeff's American Classics, is that where you work?
No, that's where I hang out. I don't really work there. I hang out there.
Where do you work at?
I don't have a job. I work on bikes. I do bikes for anybody who's willing to pay me. I've been done for years.
Very good.
Harley mechanic.
Where's the last place you worked at?
Van Nuys, Harley Davidson.
Is that in Portland?
No, it's in Van Nuys, California.
Oh, Van Nuys, California. Okay.
You're with a motorcycle club. You have some affiliation with one, is that right?
I don't have any answers for questions like that.
Okay.
So the cop asked Mark if he was in a club, and he gave a smart answer by not saying yes or no. Mark knew that his affiliation with the club could get him in trouble with the police because he was most likely involved in illegal activities. If he answered yes, then the police could make a story that could put him in prison. If he answered no, then the police would eventually find out that he lied, and that could also lead him to prison. A lot of people believe that not saying yes or no is bad, but it's not. If you don't give an answer, then the police has nothing to use against you.
Is it a few months back, a gentleman named Jeff Sudan, you know him? He threw your name out in conjunction with kind of a repossession of a car, a collection of a car. Does that sound familiar to you?
No. Jeff Sudan almost might. I'm not sure about that. It seems like Sudan rings a bell somewhere, but no, collections of a car. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mark is told that the reason he is being investigated is because someone stole his vehicle, but Mark is confused and he tells the detective that his vehicle was not stolen.
And you're living with a gal down there, is that right?
No, I kicked her out.
Oh,
she comes and stays. She stays, but she can only stay for 3 days at a time. She's kind of a transient.
Huh, okay.
I took her off the lease, and the people that I rent the house from said she can only stay for 3 days at a time. So
okay.
If somebody looks in the house, they'll see all her stuff in the bags and stuff all piled there on the floor.
When did you kick her out?
Which time? I've kicked her out a lot of times.
Numerous times?
Yeah, she just calls me, and she's with no place to go and stuff, and get tugs on the heartstrings, and I pick her up and let her stay for a little while again. It's a love-hate thing.
Okay.
So how long did she stay there before the in and out started?
She was there from the time I moved in until, well, I mean, not steady. She's never been steady there. She's always gets kicked out or moves out and goes and stays with somebody else for a while. She just kind of transients around.
And what's her name?
Nicole.
Okay, so what the police is doing here is they are asking questions about Mark's girlfriend. The reason they are doing this is because they have to make Mark feel comfortable with them. If Mark is comfortable, then the police can start to ask him the questions that actually matter to them. The questions that they asked about his girlfriend, whose name is Nicole, really do not matter, because most likely they already knew the answers. Now, if the police decided to skip the questions about his girlfriend, and instead decided to ask him the questions about Robert, then Mark would feel uncomfortable, which means that he will not talk. Mark is smart and he has a lot of knowledge about the system, so the police needs to be very careful about what to say.
How old is Nicole?
She's 36.
Does she have any other last name she goes by?
I don't think so.
Okay. She's 36.
I can't remember what her maiden one was. Yeah, I think she's 36,
Okay.
35 or 36.
And when she's not with you, where does she stay at?
Other guys, sometimes her moms.
Where does her mom live?
Staten.
I'm not quite sure where Staten is.
Out by Elmsville. Out by.
Give me a bigger city.
No, there isn't really anything out there. Detroit Lake.
Oh, okay.
Out by
I know
Detroit
where
Lake.
that is. All right. Okay. So this last time, how long was she?
So there's my background. That's it on Nicole. What else you want to know?
Okay.
Is Nicole the problem here?
Mark realized what the cops were doing, and even though he said a lot of information about Nicole, the police didn't get anything from it. Remember, the police used these questions as a strategy to later ask the important questions. But since Mark already knows their strategy, they won't be able to ask any more questions about Nicole. If they ask a question, Mark would just refuse to answer, and this is not good for the cops because he would also refuse to answer other questions, especially the ones that have to do with Robert. The police will continue to ask questions about Nicole to see if they can get Mark to talk again. If not, then they will try a different strategy.
I want to know what the heck's going on, man.
Okay. Did you know Nicole back in October?
October of this year?
Last year. 2015.
Well, yeah.
Okay. You guys were living together off and on.
I told you I'm not going to answer any more questions about Nicole until I find out what this is about. Is this a domestic thing? And if so, what am I doing in Portland?
Well, it's kind of a domestic thing. Nicole took off in a car that she may have had purchased with assets that belonged to you, or something like that. And then Jeff Sudan and a couple other guys kind of returned that car to you. Does that make sense to you? Is that
Or attempted to?
attempted
no.
to?
No.
Okay.
You guys are
So why would they throw?
Well, I'm not going to answer your questions,
Okay.
but without a lawyer anyway. But just because I don't like the reaction. But you guys are way off, man.
Okay.
You guys don't know. I don't know who's telling you these stories, and I'm not sure who Jeff Sudan is. But I can tell you right now, nobody's ever returned a car to me from anybody ever in my life.
So if we got the story wrong, can you help us out with that?
Well, I'm not going to straighten your story out. No, I'm not. Not until I find out why I'm sitting here.
So the detective tells Mark why he is being investigated, but it's the same story that he said earlier in the interrogation. He tells Mark that Nicole stole his property, but later she returned it to him. Now, why is the cop talking to Mark about stolen property if the police brought him in to question him about Robert? Well, the reason is that the police is using another strategy on Mark. The detectives have to get Mark to talk more, and to do that, they chose a different story to talk about. They also chose to pick a story that's not serious because that could make Mark feel comfortable. The problem with the story, though, is that Nicole stole Mark's property, which means he is the victim. Another problem is that Nicole didn't steal his property, and if nothing was stolen from Mark, then he shouldn't be in a room with detectives questioning him.
I don't know. I'm here for some reason. I don't know what your deal is, but you haven't explained that to me yet. Until then, I got no more answers for you about Nicole or cars or anything else. I don't even know what. Why wouldn't if this has to do with that car? Why in the heck am I not the one pressing the charges? I didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, well, I see your point.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good point. Yeah.
Okay.
The detective strategy has failed as Mark realized that he is the victim. Now the detectives will start questioning him about Robert, which is the real reason Mark was brought in for.
Well, a few months before this car thing happened, Nicole was at your house, and somebody busted in the house and roughed her up a little bit, tied her up. You remember that?
I can't really answer to that. You're going to have to get that story from her.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to answer to that but I can tell you once again, and you're going to find out that you are completely wrong.
So the detectives are trying to get Mark to talk about what happened on the day that someone broke into his house. But Mark again refuses to say anything.
Okay, all right, man. I wish Nicole was here. I feel like a piece of shit for even talking behind her back. Nicole set the whole fucking thing up. That was her and her friend. They fucking zip tied her. They knew the guy was coming. That was a setup. She robbed me. She even brought the stuff that was robbed. She brought a bunch of it back. Man, that's her and her friends. If you want to know the truth, I've been robbed by the girl so many times you couldn't even count it.
Really? What is she?
And that whole robbery right there, that stuff, everything she stole from me then that she brought back everything she couldn't sell on offer up, her and her junkie friends.
So Mark is saying that it was Nicole and her friends that stole his property. The problem with saying this is that Nicole needs to tell the detectives the same story. Now the good thing is that he didn't say that it was Robert that stole his property, because then he could be in trouble.
Okay. Is Bagger Bob part of that? Part of her junkie friends?
Bagger Bob?
Yeah. That ring a bell?
What you're talking? Yeah, I know who that is. He's fucking the guy that got killed about a fucking year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he one of the ones who set this up with Nicole?
Man, you know, you're gonna have to, if you're trying to like tie that into this or something like that, you're gonna have to talk to Nicole about that.
Okay. Well, I was asking you because you said it was her junkie friends, and I assumed that meant you knew who junkie friends were.
No, not the kind of junkie that I heard he was. She's not that kind of a junkie.
Okay. Can you help? What kind of junkie is he?
I don't know. I'm sure you probably know better than I do.
So when you say her junkie friends...
Yeah, I'm not talking about any of our ex-club brothers or anything like that. No.
Okay. All right.
I'm talking about her friends, not my friends.
Got it. Okay. So was Bagger Bob one of your friends, not hers?
Well, you know, like I said, you know, actually, if now that you're starting to bring his name into it, and he got killed, now I don't think I have any other questions to answer for you. Now I think having a lawyer here might be a good idea.
Okay. Sorry.
The detectives went a little bit too far with the questions, and Mark is starting to feel uncomfortable. If the detectives continue to ask similar questions, then Mark will end up asking for a lawyer.
But you guys have got us also.
So over the last several months, well over half a year, we have talked to a lot of people.
Okay.
Okay. And we can tell you right now, Nicole's in front of a grand jury.
Okay.
Okay. There is, you say talk to her, we have. There's a story there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Okay.
that.
So I'm just letting you know that. So we have a story, so we want to get your side of it.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So we know what's true and what's not true.
All right.
So are we going to tell you everything that we know? Of course not.
The police is using another strategy on Mark by telling him that they already know everything, but Mark later finds out that they were lying.
Did she tell you that Bagger was one of the people who came and tied her up?
I'm not going to answer any more questions for you.
Okay. At all, or just about that incident?
I think the truth is, I think I'll just not answer any more at all and have you guys arrest me so I can see what I'm under arrest for if you're not going to tell me. Because I want to know where I fit in, you know?
So Mark told the detectives that he was done talking and he wanted to know what was next. The police ended up arresting Mark and he was sentenced to life in prison. Now Mark did not go to prison because he said something wrong in the interrogation. What happened was that one of the members that was in prison called his girlfriend. The call recorded their conversation, and in that conversation he ended up telling her what happened to Robert.